Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for the Orns 10-minute take on Reading 2, Watford 2. A frustrating afternoon at the Medeski as Watford throw away a 2-0 lead and have to settle for a point. Against a Reading side that were dead in the water for the first 60 minutes of this game, a Reading crowd that was near non-existent up to that point. But then the referee makes the decision to give a penalty that really was not a penalty at all. Reading score from the spot. Tom Ince makes it 2-1. And then the game got away from Watford completely. Before that point, Watford had enjoyed a comfortable 2-0 lead. It scored in the 28th minute of the game. 30th minute, Ismaila Sarr getting the goal after a well-worked play from Henrique Arouge down the right side as a ball from Gaspar to Arouge. Arouge crossed the ball across the baseline right in front of the goal for Reading, and it was Ismaila Sarr dutifully tapping in from the goal line basically to give Watford that 1-0 lead. Watford looked completely comfortable without even really playing that well in a scrappy game in the first half, a game that was very bitty, physical, scrappy, sloppy. That was the Watford lead at halftime, and they extended that in the second half. Ryan Porteous on his debut for Watford, his full debut for Watford, getting the goal, and that was that. Watford were up 2-0 and seemingly coasting, but no one told the referee about the simple thing that you don't do. Give a penalty where there is no need to. There was no need for that penalty decision to be made. There really was no need for it. That penalty for me was not a penalty. Now, certainly there will be Reading fans who will beg to differ, but there's no way in the world that Craig Cathcart pushed down that Reading player in the box there. The referee saw otherwise, gave the Reading team a lifeline, and they said, "Thank you very much, referee," and made it 2-1, Tom Ince did, from the spot. Now, Watford from there need to ask questions about how they are set up. There were substitutions in this game that I didn't necessarily disagree with. I just disagreed with when they were used. Slaven Bilic put on these players that he put on, and there was a weird configuration there. He brought on more attackers in a game where Watford were either 2-0 or 2-1 up in, and I don't think that that was the right thing to do in retrospect. Even though I don't have a problem with the personnel, it's when you deploy that personnel in the game that is an issue. Yes, perhaps there should have been a defender on, certainly at that point at 2-1 or whenever it was, 2-1 or 2-0. But I think that Watford put the subs on too quickly in this game. And I think what they should have done, what Slaven Bilic should have done, is waited to see how this team reacted to 2-1. And let's see what these lads on the pitch bring. If you don't see anything, then bring on subs. I think Watford, and especially Bilic, threw the kitchen sink out there too early, and it didn't have any foundations. And that was the problem for me. I think that was part of the reason why Watford lost their composure. He changed things up too early. I think it disrupted whatever flow that Watford had. And I think it came back to bite them ultimately. Too many players coming on and bringing on attacking players in a game I didn't think you need to bring them on in, I think also hurt Watford. Taking off Martins and taking off Arouge, I think were big mistakes at that moment in the game. I felt that he should have taken off those players later on, if at all. Perhaps he saw something. Maybe he thought that they were tiring. Maybe he thought there was a risk of an injury. I don't know what. But in a game that was as important as this one was, I felt Bilic should have delayed those subs. And when Martins came off and when Arouge came off, you saw things fluctuate a bit more for Watford, and it wasn't as strong as it had been for the first 60 minutes of the game. I think that was a key moment, not just the horrible referee, but that moment of the substitutions really did, I think, affect the balance of Watford on the pitch today. And I also think that when you have a situation like that, the Watford players, no matter who's on the pitch, have to react better in these situations, not just to the referee's blunder, but also to going down 2-1, and also remembering that you still have a lead at that point, and you have to remember game management and defending. And Watford forgot both of those things in the remaining half hour of this match, completely at sea, 2 goals that should never have been. The penalty we already talked about, but certainly the goal from Jeff Kendrick should never have been anywhere near possible. But Watford defenders made a living on standing around and watching Kendrick do what he does, which is get shots from long distance or from the 18-yard box. And he was just around the 18-yard box or thereabouts, and he curled in a shot that was a good finish to his credit, but it was made possible by poor Watford defending, or should I say, non-existent Watford defending. This was a game today that Watford should have won. For 60 minutes, Reading were dead in the water. They didn't trouble Daniel Batten but once in the first half, and there was another shot that they had that really was not going to trouble him. And after that, they really didn't do anything in the game, except for when Watford gifted opportunities to them. And that's not to say that Reading didn't try, because the goal from the penalty spot by Tom Ince clearly energized this Reading side. But Watford did not compose themselves in a proper and professional manner following that penalty being scored. And that is the key. You've got to compose yourself in these games on the road, particularly when you're up 2-1 or up 2-0, and against a Reading side that's physical, a Reading side that can goad you, a Reading side that can mess up the game, a Reading side that has some good quality players. But Watford's quality, they had too much quality on the pitch. And I think, strangely enough, that hurt them with these subs. But the whole bottom line is, subs or no subs, early or not, attackers or defenders, the personnel on the pitch for Watford have got to be switched on in these situations, and that defending has got to be better in these situations. You cannot have players watching and spectating while Reading players are scoring goals. You cannot allow Reading players to come in, take these shots from outside the box, and you're not closing them down. You're not watching the ball. You're not getting stuck in with a tackle. That's when you give up a free kick. When you have a player running in on goal like that, give up the free kick then. That's where you give up a free kick. That's where you do it. But you don't allow a player to run straight in like that, take that kind of shot, have all the time in the world to do it. He could have set up a picnic stand out there, Kendrick, and he did. It was just unbelievable. He had all the time and space to hit that. And the majority of Watford's goals this season have come from schoolboy errors like that. And that's what's cost you these games. It's not that Watford concede goals, it's the manner in which they are conceding them. And I don't know what's going on in that defense now. I don't know what's going on, because I thought that they had this thing rectified, but they clearly haven't. Clearly haven't. Last week at Middlesbrough, the same thing. You can't allow players like Mikel Force to come running straight through and scoring an easy goal like a hot knife through butter in that defense. Julian Dix is one of the most recent Watford additions to the coaching staff, and he's a defensive specialist. He was good back in the day, years ago for West Ham. He played for Liverpool for literally about 5 or 10 minutes, and he was a good defender in his day. What Julian Dix has to do now is once again teach this team the fundamentals of defending and the fundamentals of game management. Because my goodness me, Watford did an awful job today of managing the final half hour of this game. They did not react well to that penalty going in. They did not react well to Reading's momentum. Reading clearly had a head of steam after scoring the penalty. Reading looked like they were raring to go, like Lazarus risen from the dead. I mean, this team was dead in the water for the full first hour. The crowd was not in it. You heard Watford fans, to their credit, saying, "Shall we sing a song for you?" I mean, it was an absolute graveyard at the Madejski for those Reading fans. They didn't do anything in that first 60 minutes. The team was dead. The stadium was dead. And the Watford players were having the run of the place without even playing that well. And that's the thing that really galls you when you think about the final result in this game, because there was no way Watford should have thrown away this lead. I don't care what the referee does. I don't care what the scenario is. Watford have got to come out of that game with 3 points. As it happened, they did not. And then the second goal came in, as I've said. And then the fracas at the end, the scrap at the end really typified the final half hour of that game. And by the way, that half hour was played to Reading's liking. And that's what Watford ended up doing. Watford ended up reacting to everything. Instead of dictating like they had done for much of the first 60 minutes of the game, they ended up reacting to everything that last half hour. And that's why they conceded the goals. And that's why they got into the scrap. And that's why they only got a point out of the game. A big opportunity dropped today by Watford, and now they'll have to pick things up against Blackburn next weekend. This has been the Orns 10-minute take.